President Trump's new national security advisor has taken an important step in getting rid of Obama's lingering influence at the National Security Council. Obama's NSC holdovers have finally been booted. Washington Times also reporting on President Trump's new NSC chief finally slashing Obama's bloated staff to create an efficient, tight-lipped White House operation. Very interesting that this is happening now, and probably more than one reason behind this. The White House National Security Council is sharply downsizing, they say, in a bid to improve efficiency by consolidating positions and cutting staff. Though the Washington Times, even also reporting on this, adds that a secondary likely objective is to address the nonstop leaks that have been coming from these Obama holdovers allied to Obama, Clinton, these other top Democrats. This is more likely the main problem that is being addressed by President Trump's administration in removing over 40 NSC staff officials. They've been sent back to their home agencies, and more are likely to be moved out. The reform is being led by President Trump's current national security advisor, Robert C. O'Brien. Another quote says that leaks of President Trump's conversations with foreign leaders and other damaging disclosures likely originated with anti-Trump officials in the White House who stayed over from the Obama administration, according to several current and former White House officials. A spokesman from the NSC said, quote, "We remain on track to meeting the right-sizing goal that Ambassador O'Brien outlined in October, and in fact may exceed that target by drawing down even more positions." This article also points out that under President Obama, the NSC staff had mushroomed to as many as 450 people. Mr. O'Brien plans to cut the staff to fewer than 120 policy officials by early next year. The downsizing will be carried out by consolidating positions and returning officials to agencies and departments such as the CIA, the State and Defense Departments, and the military. Mr. O'Brien has also highlighted the out-of-control growth in the number of staff at the NSC recently. Back in 1962, under President Kennedy, the NSC had a policy-making staff of just 12. Then during the 2000s, under George W. Bush, the number of NSC staff members increased sharply. However, it was during the Obama administration that the NSC was transformed into a major policy-making agency seeking to duplicate the functions of the State and Defense Departments within the White House. Another quote from Mr. O'Brien reads, "The NSC staff became bloated during the prior administration. The NSC is a coordinating body. I am trying to get us back to a lean and efficient staff that can get the job done, can coordinate with our interagency partners, and make sure the president receives the best advice he needs to make the decisions necessary to keep the American people safe." The article adds that under the Obama administration, NSC officials wielded enormous power. NSC staff members were known to telephone commanders in Afghanistan and other locations in the Middle East with orders, a violation of the military's strict chain of command, said military officials familiar with the calls. Another quote from Mr. O'Brien says, "I just don't think that we need the numbers of people that it expanded to under the last administration to do this job right." Officials held over from the Obama administration are suspected of leaking sensitive details of President Trump's telephone calls with foreign leaders. After President Trump's election in November of 2016 and continuing through the spring of 2017, a series of unauthorized disclosures to news outlets appeared to come from within the White House. Several of the leaks involved publication of sensitive transcripts of the president's conversations with foreign leaders. Previously, Republican Devin Nunes from California, former chairman of the House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence said this year that he sent the Justice Department 8 criminal referrals related to the leaks, including those related to President Trump's conversations with the leaders of Mexico and Australia. Former White House strategist Steve Bannon said efforts to weed out the Obama holdovers was a priority early in the administration. He said, quote, "The NSC had gotten so big there were over 450 billets," adding that he and others tried to remove the Obama detailees from the White House. "We wanted them out," he said, "and I think we would have avoided a lot of the problems we got today if they had been sent back to their agencies." The House impeachment of President Trump, article adds, had its origins with an Obama-era holdover, widely reported to be a CIA detailee to the NSC staff. This individual was a registered Democrat held over from the Obama White House, previously working with former Vice President Joe Biden and former CIA Director John Brennan, a vocal critic of President Trump who helped initiate the so-called Russia collusion investigation of the Trump campaign during the 2016 election. The whistleblower filed an official complaint in August saying he had learned secondhand that President Trump's telephone call with Ukrainian President Zelensky involved discussions of former Vice President Joe Biden and his son Hunter. CIA detailee was among the more than 40 officials returned to their agencies. Another controversial member of the NSC staff is Alexander Vindman, who testified against the president during a House impeachment hearing that he was concerned by what he heard on the president's call to Ukraine. Another NSC official, Tim Morrison, testified that Vindman was suspected of leaking sensitive information to the press, something that Vindman later denied. Under previous Trump administration national security advisors, the communication flow was usurped as the priorities of senior officials, along with those of outside departments and agencies, were placed higher than those of President Trump himself, Mr. Higgins said. He said, quote, "The result was a foreign policy that oscillated and pitted Trump's voters against what appeared to be a calcified bureaucracy. The privilege of serving on the NSC staff was abused by those who took these positions in a willful attempt to obstruct the president and his voters' agenda." Mr. Higgins praised Mr. O'Brien for eliminating those obstructing President Trump's foreign policy desires from the NSC staff and reorienting the council's mission. He called it an important first step. Now the National Security Advisor needs to address, as he is able to support, the coup attempt against the president with all elements of power, and to take immediate steps and implement safeguards and precautions to make sure this abuse of our intelligence/judicial apparatus never happens again. Mr. O'Brien told the Washington Times that another change he put into place was regular meetings of the NSC Principals Committee, the heads of key security agencies and departments, and the Deputies Committee made up of number 2 officials. O'Brien said, quote, "We have time carved out of the calendar every week for principal committee meetings so that we can really make policy across the interagency and ensure that the president is getting the best advice possible. We want to coordinate that policy, and so far I think we have had a lot of success." Another former NSC staffer said that O'Brien was doing the right thing by taking a fresh look at the NSC, what was working and what didn't. I think any new national security advisor would do the same thing. Meanwhile, the mainstream media has predictably been freaking out over President Trump's plan to shrink the NSC staff. So we'll continue watching for any other reactions or results coming from this big step being taken by President Trump's NSC chief finally removing Obama's lingering influence at the National Security Council. Let me know what you think. Please leave a comment. If you could give this video a thumbs up, that's greatly appreciated. And make sure you're subscribed to the channel. Thanks everybody that has been sharing these videos and sharing the channel to help get the information out there. And in the video description are links to my Patreon and PayPal accounts where you can support the channel directly. Even $1 or $2 makes a huge difference, helps me keep talking about these issues. Patreon.com/realityreader or paypal.me/realityreader. Both links in the description. I'll follow up soon. Thanks again.